Turn my fan on. All right, shalom, everybody.
Shalom.
Shalom.
All right, let's get it started. Most High Abba Yahuwah, we thank you for allowing us another opportunity to come together and dine at your spiritual table. Abba, we thank you for the fruits of your spirit, being your love, your joy, your peace, your goodness, your gentleness, your faithfulness, your long suffering, your meekness, and your temperance that went into this lesson, as well as the countless hours that were needed to prepare this lesson. Abba, we thank you for those that are present to absorb this lesson into their hearts, minds, and spirit, as well as those that will receive the blessing of it on the playback. Abba, we thank you, the only true and living God, the one and only God, the Almighty God, for all of your blessings that you continue to bless us with, that leads unto everlasting life. Abba, we thank you in the name of Yahusha HaMashiach for all of these.
All right, very good. So, welcome and shalom, everyone.
Shalom.
Shalom, shalom, shalom.
Shalom, shalom.
All right, so we're going to get started. And I'm going to do a little differently today. We're going to jump right into a few things, and then I'm going to introduce the lesson. So, first thing I want to for you guys to do is to just take a look at this list of words and see what do these words have in common. And I just listed some words: reindeer, sheep, family, police, luggage, fish, homework, deer, bison, cattle, dice, food, military, shellfish, swine, moose, offspring, ox, fowl, heathen, and team. Those are the ones that, does anything stand out about what these words may have in common? All right, no problem. So let me give you an answer for it. So these are examples of words that are nouns that are the same in plural as they are in the singular form. Again, reindeer, sheep, whether it's one or many, family, one or many, police, one or many, luggage, one or many, fish, homework, deer, bison, cattle, dice, food, military, shellfish, swine, moose, offspring, ox, fowl, heathen, and team. So those are words that are both the same, whether it's in a plural or singular form. All right. So let's identify what the definition of plural. I know this is like going back to school, but I need to set the foundation to where we're going with this lesson. So from the definition of plural, reference from dictionary.com, from an adjective perspective, it is consisting of, containing, or pertaining to more than one, pertaining to or involving a plurality of persons or things, being of such a plurality. And number 4, grammar, noting or pertaining to a member of the category of a number found in many languages, indicating that a word has more than one referent, as in English men, or more than 2 referents, as in Old English GE, meaning you. And then from a noun perspective, the first definition would be the plural number, and number 2 is a form in the plural. All right. So I'm going somewhere with all of this. I just want you to hang tight for a minute. Then the definition of singular, which is the opposite of plural. From an adjective perspective, it's extraordinary, remarkable, exceptional. Number 2 is unusual or strange, odd or different. Number 3, being the only one of its kind, distinctive, unique. Number 4 is separate or individual. From a noun perspective, the singular number And also the second definition from a noun perspective is a form in the singular. So today's lesson is about plurality in singularity. So with the list of words that I mentioned, you can see where this is going by now with the words that were listed that are both plural and singular in nature. And we're going to talk about how this is applicable within the scriptural text of the Bible and what it means to our understanding in the spiritual language that Yahuwah has laid the foundation in his plan of salvation throughout the scriptural text in the Bible. All right. So let's talk about where this lesson is coming from. This lesson, spiritual language series, this lesson regarding plurality and singularity is one of a few in the Unsealed and Revealed Truths spiritual language series. The spiritual language series encompasses lessons, commentaries, content, and spiritual insight to the spiritual scriptural context of the Holy Bible. Much of the spiritual language was sealed, Daniel 12:4, until the time of the end as the measure to fulfill Yahuwah's plan of salvation and get his true assembly into the place of safety before the destruction takes place. The spiritual language series is comprised of various content that unseals and reveals the spiritual context of the hidden manna, Revelations 2:17. In the hidden manna are Yahuwah's secrets that he shares with his prophets, Amos 3:7, to facilitate his plan of salvation for both his blessings and curses. These secrets of the hidden manna are concealed in plain sight in the very same text that the world has been reading in the Bible, but unable to properly interpret and understand until the time towards the end of Yahuwah's plan of salvation at the ushering in of the kingdom on earth as it is in Shamayim. Throughout the entirety of Yahuwah's plan of salvation, the word, which was initially on mankind's heart in the beginning of Earth Age number 2 in the Garden of Eden, until Adam forsook Yahuwah, the righteousness of Yahuwah in mankind dissipated and led to the written word for Adam to now make his way back to Yahuwah as the second Adam, Yahusha. The inscribed word was now written to fulfill Yahuwah's plan of salvation for his vengeance, pleasure, and the redemption of the deceived that repent and follow Yahuwah's righteousness. This is being achieved through the spiritual language, spiritual language of the written text of the Bible, carried out in spiritual language, yet understood carnally to accomplish Yahuwah's plan. The astounding information in this series is critical to one's understanding in getting to know our Creator Yahuwah and how he operates. It is also critical to understand who you are in Yahuwah to receive your covenant promised blessings, or on the other end, receive your curse, all occurring according to your spirit and your decision to submit to his righteousness on your own volition or be cursed to eternal damnation. All right. So that just tells a little bit about the spiritual language series, which we started a while ago. And there are going to be other lessons within this series as well, speaking more on the different topics within spiritual language. I know we talked about speaking in tongues. We spoke about other aspects of spiritual language and the Hebrew idioms and things of that nature as well. So this is just another one of the lessons within that series, speaking in regards to how we decipher and understand what our Creator is telling us through his spiritual language in the text of the Bible. All right. So uniplural or plurality in singularity. Some people have adopted the word uniplural to express the meaning of nouns that are both in the singular form and the plural form. This makes the word often look as though it is speaking of one singular when it also is speaking of a collective, plural, more than one, or a collective. We see this method of uniplural nouns, person, place, thing, or idea throughout the scriptural text when properly identifying and understanding the spiritual language being spoken. When reading scriptures and not identifying the spiritual context of the spiritual language, often presented in uniplural or plurality and singularity, one will have a different understanding of what the author is conveying. The prophets of old who received and inscribed the scriptures utilized the method of plurality and singularity, uniplural, to carry out Yahuwah's plan of salvation. Remember, the plan of salvation is to facilitate Yahuwah's vengeance, wrath, pleasure, and redemption for the disobedience of his fallen through deliverance as he reserves the unjust unto the day of judgment to be punished. 2 Peter 2, 9 through 10. The words of the scriptures are reflective of all that has transpired and will continue to transpire until the end of the plan of salvation. See chart E and M. As we've pointed out on many occasions, the scriptures are written for two different worlds, the natural and carnal world and mindset, which is unrighteous, and the spiritual world of Yahuwah's spiritual wisdom, knowledge, understanding, and mind, which is righteousness, which is of Yahuwah and his kingdom on earth as it is in heaven. So identifying the use of plurality and singularity is key to knowing your creator, Yahuwah, in spirit and in truth. All right, so let's talk about uniplural nouns. When we read Deuteronomy 6:4, hear, O Israel, Yahuwah, our Elohim, is one, and you shall love Yahuwah, your Elohim, with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. It says Yahuwah, our Elohim or Elohim, is one. This phrase is not customarily grammatically correct. A plural noun, Elohim or Elohim, with a singular verb is. Elohim is the plural of both El and Eleo, which means mighty one, strong one, or powerful one, according to Strong's Hebrews 4:10, Brown, Driver, the lexicon, Briggs, and Elohim being either of these two words in the plural, therefore means strong ones, mighty ones, or powerful ones. From these definitions, Elohim or Elohim consists of at least two powerful beings. But as the Brit Chadashah or the New Testament illustrates, Elohim is not limited to two. It signifies an unlimited number. So Elohim or Elohim is a collective body, group, or assembly of powerful beings. Through modern day language vernacular, you would not use or hear someone say God's is, as it is a plural noun and singular verb being utilized. Using God's is would be incorrect in modern language. As an example, when we utilize the phrase United States of America, the word states is plural to the collective of what is supposed to be United States. You typically would not state that United States of America are going to war. The statement would imply that individual states are going to war. Instead, we would state that the United States of America is going to war. This makes the country of the United States of America a collective body that would go to war. This is using a singular verb with a plural noun, which is called collective nouns. Society often speaks of the United States in the singular form. When spoken, it is represented as a composite of many as a singular entity. Although there's 50 states, it's one country and one entity. All right. Uniplural noun continued. Elohim, Elohim is plurality in one. And because the tense is singular, it requires a singular verb. We must understand and keep top of mind that Elohim is plurality in one. Language vernacular, along with miseducation and false teachings, have many to believe that Elohim is singular when the root of the word and the scriptures define and declare otherwise. The scriptures of the Bible give us many references that Elohim is not singular. There are over 245 uses of the phrase Yahuwah of hosts, which reads Lord of hosts in the adulterated version of the Bible. This phrase names the collective of many members. It is to be clear in our understanding that Elohim is a kingdom consisting of many. The term Elohim is represented in a singular form as there is never any divisiveness that occurs in the spirit of righteousness. And for whatever reason, I didn't finish the sentence, but where there is division, there is no righteousness, there's unrighteousness, and that's where I was going. I don't know why I didn't finish that sentence. All right. And the same applies to the members of the body. And this is something I want you guys to read several scriptures, but 1 Corinthians 12 really lists a lot about the members of the body, speaking of the members of the body of Yahusha, and why that is relevant to your understanding for you to really resonate in your spirit and understanding of who you are and who you are as a member of the body. All right. So the definition, we're going to change gears a little bit by going to the definition of Jew. As referred to in the dictionary.com reference, the definition of Jew states as a noun, number one of a scattered group of people that traces its descent from the biblical Hebrews or the proselytic adherents of Judaism, Israelite, I'm sorry. Number two, a person whose religion is Judaism. 3, a subject of the ancient kingdom of Judah. Now we know that, of course, this is man's definition, and we would argue a little bit differently from what is written here as far as one who practices the religion of Judaism being one definition, and a subject of ancient kingdom of Judah would be a different definition according to the context in which things are as written in the word. So number 2 and number 3 would be definitely something different, or number 3 would definitely stand out as the scriptures declare versus what number 1 and 2 are stating from man's perspective. All right. So from the British dictionary, a noun for the term Jew is number 1, a member of the Semitic people who claim descent from the ancient Hebrew people of Israel, are spread throughout the world, and are linked by cultural or religious ties. That sounds more correct. That sounds like number 3, just without the name, Kingdom of Judah. Number 2, a person whose religion is Judaism. That's different. So, but the point here is to identify that these are groups of people that now are identified as a Jew, a singular noun. All right. The definition of Gentile. These are terms that are in our scriptural text in the Bible, Jew and Gentile. So the definition of Gentile, adjective, or of relating to any people not Jewish or Jews. Number 2, Christian as distinguished from Jewish, being Jews. Number 3, a heathen or pagan. Yet everybody claims to be a Gentile, but they don't claim to be heathen or pagan. Isn't that interesting? Number 4, of a linguistic expression, expressing nationality or local origins. Number 5, of or relating to a tribe, clan, people, or nation, etc. From a noun perspective, it is number 1, a person who is not Jewish especially a Christian. Number 2, among Mormons, a person who is not a Mormon. Number 3, a heathen or pagan. Again, these are terms of a Gentile. Again, it's a group of people. For all of these, it's a group of people that is using this one term of Gentile in the singular form that's referring to a large collective of people. All right. Now, as we go to the definition of the Babylonian term God, the definition of God in the dictionary, from a noun perspective, the first definition is a monotheistic religions, the one supreme being, the creator and ruler of the universe. Number 2, the supreme being according to some particular religion or conception. Number 3, the supreme being considered with reference to a particular attribute. Number 4, Christian Science, the supreme being understood as life, truth, love, mind, soul, spirit, principle. The British dictionary says as a noun, theology, the sole supreme being, eternal, spiritual, and transcendent, who is the creator and ruler of all and is infinite in all attributes. The object of worship in monotheistic religions and practices. And number 2 is play God, to behave in an imperious or superior manner. That was the uppercase G-O-D for God. Now, the definition of G-O-D, God, in the lowercase, as a noun is 1, a supernatural being who is worshipped as the controller of some part of the universe or some aspect of life in the world, or is the personification of some force. Number 2, an image, idol, or symbolic representation of such a deity. Number 3, any person or thing to which excessive attention is given. Example, money was his God. Number 4, a man who has qualities regarding and making him superior to other men. So that's the lowercase of God from the definition listed in dictionary.com. Right? Hebrew and spiritual definition of Elohim, and God. So here I'm using throughout this lesson and in some of the others, you'll see Elohim or Elohim, and we haven't converted yet to, well, we use both Elohim and Elohim, which is the Hebrew word. Elohim, from my knowledge, it seems to have come after, as the Babylonian part of Elohim came after Elohim. So that's why I use both. We definitely know and identify what the meaning is from a Hebrew perspective, and the English language translation is God. All right. So I just want to put that out there as a disclaimer, for people that see, and some people want to battle or debate over Elohim. Elohim, that's not what this lesson is about, but we definitely identify that the word was Elohim or Elohim from the Hebrew, and then later translated into the English language as God. All right. One must first comprehend the Western view. Perception and teachings are skewed from the origin. The origin is where the truth and authenticity resides. The word El was originally written with 2 pictograph letters, one being an ox head and the other a shepherd's staff. The ox represented strength and the staff of the shepherd represented authority. First, the ancient Hebrews understood Elohim as the ox in the yoke. When plowing the field, 2 ox were placed in a yoke. One was the older and more experienced, and the other was the younger and less experienced. The younger would then learn from the older. The Hebrew Yahudim understood Elohim or Elohim as the older experienced ox, and they, as the younger, would learn from him. The Strong's Hebrew Concordance and Lexicon, Strong's 410, does identify the translation of the pictograph ox, later translated to Elohim and Elohim, by the Hebrew Yahudim, and later, that should be later translated to God by the modern Gentile languages. All right. So, as you should have picked up with that, we know in the scriptures in Romans, it tells us, first to the Jew, then to the Gentile. So Romans 1:16 says, "For I am not ashamed of the gospel of Mashiach, for it is the power of Elohim unto salvation to everyone that believes, to the Jew first, and also to the Greek, which is the Gentiles." Romans 2:10 through 11, "But glory, honor, and peace to every man that worketh good, to the Jew first, and also to the Gentile. For there is no respect of person with Elohim." So for those battling and having these debates, unnecessary debates about Gentiles can't make it into the kingdom and Gentiles saying that Jews can't make it into the kingdom, you're both wrong. Both can make it into the kingdom, and it's for a purpose, which we will talk about a little bit in this lesson and a lot more so in the lessons to come. Remember that our Creator, Yahuwah, is no respecter of person. That's important to always remember. All right. So the spiritual the Hebrew and spiritual definition of Elohim or Elohim as God. The scriptures are the mouth of Elohim. The scriptures declare, Deuteronomy 6:4-5, which we read, "Hear, O Israel, Yahuwah, our Elohim is one, and you shall love Yahuwah your Elohim with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your might." John 1:1, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with Elohim, and the Word was Elohim." John 4:24, "Elohim is a spirit, and they that worship him must worship him in spirit and in truth." 1 John 4:7-10, "Beloved, let us love one another, for love is of Elohim, and every one that loves is born of Elohim, for Elohim is love. In this was manifested the love of Elohim towards us, because that Elohim sent his only begotten Son into the world that we might live through him. Herein is love, not that we loved Elohim, but that he loved us and sent his Son to be the propitiation of our sins." 1 John 1:5. "This then is the message which we have heard of him and declare unto you, that Elohim, God, is light, and in him is no darkness at all." Psalms 18:30. "As for Elohim, his way is perfect. The word of Elohim is tried. He is a buckler to all those that trust in him." Psalm 50:6. "And the heavens shall declare his righteousness, for Elohim is judge himself." Selah. Psalm 116:5. "Gracious is Yahuwah and righteous. Yea, our Elohim is merciful." Matthew 22:36-40. "Master, which is the great commandment in the law?" Yahusha said unto him, "You shall love Yahuwah, your Elohim, with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the first and great commandment. and the second is like unto it. You shall love your neighbor as yourself. So, and I know that we point this out over and over again, but this really has to resonate with us. If we do those two greatest commandments, which we know that all the laws and prophets hang upon, then we are closer to our Creator, because that is what our Creator consists of. There's no way to see and understand your Creator without understanding and being obedient to those two greatest commandments. There is no way to do that. And it's only through his faith that we can do that. Through our faith in him that we can do that. So those were just a few of the many scriptures regarding the definition of our spiritual creator, Yahuwah. And oftentimes when people single out certain aspects of the scriptures, they do just that, single out and not understand the complexity or the wholeness of our creator, which is now what makes him authentic through every word that comes out of his mouth, because we know that every word must be fulfilled. His word will not come back void.
Right.
All right. So that's just the precursor. Now let's take a deeper look into this matter. We're going to jump into the other document that I have for this lesson, which is not on these slides. So just give me a second here, and here we are. So Elohim hides spiritual truths by using singular words to hide plural entities. Again, Deuteronomy 6:4, as we've read a couple of times now, we see the same on this document as well. So the holy Shema, the Lord of our God is one. And actually, I should have changed. It shouldn't be Lord, but I usually change that, so forgive me for that. Make absolutely no mistake about it. Yahuwah, our creator, is one, Deuteronomy 6:4. And he doesn't share his glory with anyone else, Isaiah 42:8. He expects his people to partake of monotheistic worship, serving only one Elohim or God, and not polytheistic worship, serving more than one God. In this oneness, however, the Elohim or God of Israel, the Elohim of the Holy Bible, represents himself by way of a plural word. The word commonly used for the creator, Elohim, or God in the KJV, is no doubt a plural word. So, is the Elohim of the Bible being contradictory? Is he saying out of one side of his mouth that he is one, while out of the other side of his mouth, he's saying that he is more than one? Some may think this and therefore somewhat reject the Elohim of the Bible. Others who rightfully know or assume the creator doesn't contradict himself will merely operate in their natural carnal senses to just accept Yahuwah as being one physical entity and totally disregard anything else that may suggest otherwise. And then there are those who operate off their spiritual senses to try and reconcile the situation regarding Yahuwah being one and yet still be more than one. After all, the scriptures declare that we are to worship him in spirit and in truth. John 4:23 and 24. These are the remnant who have established a solid relationship with their creator and knows how he operates by way of utilizing parables and mysteries to hide himself and his truth from the wicked. Matthew 13:10 through 13. He discerns that there is more that needs to be known regarding the matter that meets the eye. Proverbs 4:7 for wisdom. He goes forward to search the scriptures to find out how in the world can this be possible, that Yahuwah can be one in the singular and yet still more than one plural. Might this be yet another stumbling block that the true Mashiach has laid in order to continue exposing the wicked hearts of people that continue to reject him in his overall plan of salvation.
Mm.
Ooh, sorry, too fast. Yeah. From the previous studies, we see or understand that Yahuwah operates in secret. Matthew 11:25. We also see that one can only know the true Mashiach only if the Abba or Father reveals to him. Matthew 16:17 and Matthew 11:27. The truth regarding this matter has been revealed, a truth that is definitely hard to endure. 2 Timothy 4:3. It was clearly shown, but more than likely rejected by most, that due to Yahuwah's ability to be omnipresent, that he can be present in more than one place and one time. We see that this is made possible by way of his Ruach or spirit to replicate his spirit while still in his perfected, glorified spiritual body. As discussed and demonstrated in this lesson, the reason why we're here, it was then shown that one collective of his Ruach took on the title role as the Father, the celestial that remained in the third heaven, while the other, who was cast down, Lucifer and his angels, took on the role of Adam. It was from Adam that the only begotten son of Elohim will make it back to Yahuwah, the Abba or Father. It is in this way that the son of Elohim is the only begotten son of the Father. All of this is being done for the purpose of him fulfilling all that is required within the plan of salvation to restore back to his elect during the kingdom on earth and earth age number 3, that which they lost during earth age number 1. See chart E regarding the righteous spiritual life. Therefore, by way of the redemptive plan of salvation, Yahuwah was able to manifest himself in heaven in his glorified celestial spiritual body, while at the same time manifesting himself on earth in a sinful flesh and blood body, which is of the fallen. Although he dwells in a flesh and blood body, being tempted to sin, his righteous spirit never sinned, thereby overcoming sin and death. This now makes the son of Elohim, or God, being Elohim, the only one qualified to impute his righteousness of having perfectly kept the law unto others that receive him, his elect, so that they too will be perfect just as he is perfect. Matthew 5:48. Yahuwah utilizes the word Elohim in Genesis 1:26 to denote the fact that his one being as the creator is legitimately made manifest as multiple beings, spiritual beings who are human beings. In this way, he is referred to as being Elohim, who is omnipresent, omnipotent, and omniscient. Plurality and singularity, another one of Elohim's secret spiritual weapons. Another one of Yahuwah's spiritual weapons to continue to hide his truth from the tares is that he uses plurality and singularity. In other words, the word Elohim, God, is a singular word meaning one entity, while at the same time can also refer to that which is plural, more than one entity. These types of words are called uniplural words. Elohim, God is one, the Holy Shema, monotheism, but can still exist as multiple entities, all still being one and the same as the one spiritual entity or spiritual being he came forth from. All separate beings are collectively referred to by the plural noun or uniplural word Elohim. Our Creator can now be in more than one place at the same time. This is now revealed the truth of the mystery of godliness, 1 Timothy 3:16. As the master teacher, the true Mashiach educates his people by using these methods. It is shown that he uses parallelisms as he works out his plan of salvation or salvation plan in a circular fashion as history is repeated. Isaiah 46:10. By establishing these patterns, he allows his elect to understand that he is very consistent, reliable, and trustworthy. Hebrew 13:8. For instance, if during time past when he sent forth mass destruction, he always let his people know beforehand so that they could get into the place of safety to be protected. In like manner, as much as the tares will say no man knows the day nor the hour as it pertains to Hamashiach's second coming and the end of the world of our day, world age number 2, the true Mashiach is revealing this very same information to his own yet again. Amos 3:7 and John 16:15. It was also shown how the true Mashiach uses his spiritual language, speaking in tongues, Hebrew idioms, Mark 16:17 and 18, to teach his own while at the same time leaving the tares completely in the dark. Now, we will continue to see how he has added the method of plurality and singularity to his spiritual repertoire, thereby continuing to conceal his mighty and powerful arsenal of spiritual weapons from the enemy, the tares. It's amazing that instead of having the eyes open to continue to hear truth, many will continue to mock and scoff at such truth, thereby showing that deep inside, they just don't have a pure heart for truth. Again, this is the exact reason why the true Mashiach operates in this manner. He goes forth to test, try, or prove the inhabitants of the earth. Exodus 20:20, Deuteronomy 13:3, Exodus 16:4. All that fail these tests are proven to have impure hearts and therefore are exposed as having their part with the wicked. The reality of the situation is that the method of establishing plural entities by singular words is a very commonplace. Mankind is already familiar with this method, but often don't pay it much attention. Therefore, they are unable to properly apply these spiritual methods to biblical truth. Now, let's demonstrate giving some examples of how this method of plurality and singularity is utilized throughout societies. So here we have a singular word used to define plural entities. A marriage, from a plural sense, it's a man that takes a woman to be his wife. Singular is the two become one in marriage. So marriage is now the one singular, a word for the plural definition of more than one. A family, plurality is the husband and wife and that have children. From a singular form, the three, husband, wife, and children become one family. A flock, one farmer joins the sheep with another farmer's sheep. Singularity, all of the sheep become one flock. A pack, one herdsman joins his wolves with another herdsman's wolves. In a singular form, all of the wolves become one pack. A church, ecclesia, which is the set-apart church. One person decides to join a house of worship, all of the believers comprised of one church. We're going to talk more about that later. Now, applying these basic concepts of establishing plurality and singularity and having understood unsealed mysteries, number 6, man created to be God, here's what we have. One Elohim or God, plurality. One Elohim by title or role, the son of Elohim, directly comes forth as the expressed image from the same Elohim by title as the Abba or Father. From a singular form, both Elohims or gods comprised of being one Elohim God, they are one and the very same, as both are now part of the Godhead or God family. The use of the word Godhead in the Brit Chadashah or New Testament is directly equivalent to the use of the word Elohim in the Tanakh or Old Testament, thereby further certifying the New in its entirety only reveals or confirms the truth of the Old. One Godhead. Oh, sorry about that. One Godhead, plurality, one spirit man, indirectly comes forth, created in the image of his Elohim. Here we are dealing with man and Elohim. In singularity, the spirit man believes in his Elohim. Yahuwah as Elohim imputes unto him his righteousness, thereby making the spirit man perfect and righteous. This now makes the spirit man, Elohim, or Elohim, a sinless, righteous, perfected ruler when properly understanding and adhering to the spiritual laws and commandments. Therefore, both the spirit man who learns and puts on Yahuwah's righteousness and Elohim comprise of being one Elohim, but not one and the same, as they are both part of the one Godhead, the God family, celestial and terrestrial. All right. Number 3, to believe or not believe, that is the question. We can see in some cases this concept is easy to apply, but in other cases it can be quite challenging to apply and then soundly understood or understand. In any event, Yahuwah effectively utilizes this method that has to result in billions to terribly stumble all according to plan. It is for this reason of not being able to comprehend this hard teaching that many of the Tayers, Matthew 13:25 through 40, will reject the true Mashiach as being Elohim. This includes the Arabs, Muslims via Islam, Jehovah's Witnesses by way of Christianity, as well as many of the Hebrew Jewish sects and other divisions of Christianity as well. It's for the same reason that many will reject the Old Testament and receive the New Testament. As New Testament Christians or Christianity, or reject the New Testament while receiving the Old Testament, Torah-keeping Jews or Judaism. They will be snared into not understanding that it is the same one God of both testaments, and he's bringing forth the very same message or gospel of salvation in both testaments. They won't have the eyes to see that the new only continues to confirm the old, just as a hand fits the glove. Isaiah 8:20. Without having received the one and only true Messiah, who is Elohim, 1 Timothy 3:16, and has died for other sins, Daniel 9:26, these tares will remain dead in their sins to not become a part of the one God family of the perfect righteousness. Number 4, unsealing the truth of the one world order. When you have truly established a relationship with the Elohim of Yasharol, or God of Israel, you know he always has a trick or two up his sleeve. Matthew 13:10 through 13. The word of Elohim, the Holy Bible, is such a powerful book that Yahuwah simply, by his word, that which he speaks will prove all things. Matthew 22:29. As previously shown, although Yahuwah had all end-time truth written and recorded in the scriptures, he merely had it sealed. Daniel 12:4. He would only unseal the truth regarding all end-time events only when mankind reached the predetermined appointed time for the books to be opened. Daniel 12:4 and Matthew 24:32 through 35. Amazingly, from a natural or carnal perspective, the true Mashiach makes the text therein appear that his second coming can occur at any time throughout the duration of time and history when adhering to pagan man's ways of keeping time. Therefore, many generations of mankind have always thought to some degree that they would be that very generation living on earth when the true Mashiach would return. Hence, there have been many false Mashiachs, teachings, and dates established as to when he would return and how. By looking at end-time doctrine from a natural or carnal perspective, which is a spiritual death trap, they will have established all their teachings regarding these matters, thinking that they are prepared to receive Messiah when he comes. Sure, some are waiting for this prophecy to be fulfilled, the mark of the beast, the anti-Mashiach to come, and that prophecy to be fulfilled, the building of the temple in Jerusalem, Satan to enter the temple claiming to be God, etc. Many carnal-minded believers believe when they see these events take place from a natural and carnal perspective, their senses will be heightened to prepare them even further for Mashiach's return. Unfortunately, for these carnal men that still have their spiritual senses turned off are going to continue to wait and will be caught by Yahuwah's wrath on the day of judgment, not knowing Yahuwah's time and judgment. They will wait right up to the time of the first resurrection is completed, has passed them by, and then are exposed to the world as being nothing but tares. The truth in this matter is that by way of utilizing the method of plurality and singularity, many of the doctrines developed on the natural level by carnal-minded men are exposed as being totally fraudulent. Again, the Elohim of Israel is spirit, and they who worship him must do so in spirit and in truth. John 4:24 through 4:22 through 24. As discussed earlier, because of their ability to only see things at the first level of life, the natural, they establish natural doctrine based on what they naturally see and understand. That which is tangible, Matthew 12:39. But for each natural interpretation, there is a corresponding spiritual interpretation. It will generally be spiritual that uproots the natural, thereby establishing spiritual truth. When we analyze the scriptures closely, using the method of plurality and singularity, along with other spiritual forensics of the spiritual language, we will find that spiritual man's carnal view of the scriptures and end-time events have been totally incorrect. In accordance with the salvation plan, incarnated man is merely fulfilling roles. Some are fulfilling positive roles in righteousness on behalf of the true Mashiach, while others are fulfilling negative, unrighteous roles on behalf of Hasatan. The setting is the first heaven here on earth, which is a fallen state from the third heaven, where the celestial Yahuwah dwells. Satan and his demonic spirits dwell in the second heaven, but have entire rule over the earth, thereby making earth a living hell. Satan and his cohorts have qualities and characteristics that are identifiable via the scriptures, which we are to know of the adversary in order to better be prepared to defeat or overcome him. Revelations 12:9, 1 Peter 5:8. Hasatan is full of confusion, lies, and division. His governmental system or world order is based on total greed, selfishness, and chaos as he goes forth with a false sense of love. 1 Timothy 6:10, for power, rulership, and money. He can only remain in power and authority provided he continues to manifest himself as the liar, murderer, and thief that he really is. John 8:44. His goal is to become and remain unified as being one in this confusion, not realizing that his wickedness only causes destruction for Satan to cast out Satan and will only end up destroying itself. Matthew 12:25-28, Mark 3:23-25, and Luke 17. I messed up that scripture. Forgot what chapter that is, 17-20. Although this has been mentioned to address the traditional teaching of the one world order, many believe that a time is coming where Satan or Hasatan will indwell himself into a natural human being, and this person will now be the anti-Messiah. The false teaching and thought are that he is to go then forward to create a one world order system where all of mankind is unified in the proposed new governmental system that he will establish. This system will require that all are to take his mark, something physical, Revelations 13:7, and if not, will simply have to take death, be physically killed. All of this sounds fascinating and amazing for a Hollywood blockbuster film, but that is all it is. This aspect of the end time events is not what Elohim of Yahusha is speaking of in his word at all. Recall what happened to the Tower of Babel, where Babel means confusion. In Genesis 11:9, the wicked were trying to build a tower to Elohim. In other words, they were trying to obtain the tree of life while still being in a state of wickedness. Genesis 3:22-24. Again, had they accomplished this, then the entire creation will have been doomed. To prevent this from happening, the tower has to come down. The wicked must be destroyed. Therefore, Satan knows that if he and his cohorts and servants are all unified as one carnally in unrighteousness, then he will only ultimately destroy himself and the entire creation. Therefore, it is not his agenda to go forward to literally become one unified worldwide people. He must maintain himself and his rulership, his one world order, hoping that everyone therein remains being confused, divided, and separated. Meanwhile, it's Yahuwah's agenda to do just the opposite. It's his desire and will for all of his people to be together as one in his righteousness. This is exactly what he's doing and will accomplish. Ezekiel 36:34-36, and Daniel 7:26-27. But also notice the following. Even if he remains his nature of operating in a manner that brings forth division, strife, and confusion, 1 Corinthians 14:30, verse 40, and continue in this manner, then he will also be destroyed. In other words, because of his continual unrighteousness, then he himself is in a catch-22 situation where he is damned if he does and damned if he doesn't. This battle he and his servants are fighting is one that simply cannot win. Matthew 12:25-26. Evil and unrighteousness never wins. The best they can do is rule temporarily, where Yahuwah and his servants will be able to rule forever in righteousness, in spirit, and in truth. Hence, Yahuwah is continually proving to the creation that his one righteous way is the only way that will result in his entire creation to eternally sustain itself. So again, hold on, sorry about that. So again, the teaching that has been in place until present day, where man is claiming that a future one world order is coming, is yet another damnable heresy. 2 Peter 2, 1 through 10. Remember, Yahuwah has written the scriptures to facilitate his plan of salvation and have his vengeance, pleasure, and redeem his deceived ones, while reserving the unjust unto the day of judgment to be punished. So, it is the carnally minded that will read, study, and follow the scriptures carnally that will continue to be misled. The truth of the matter is that it is another strategically devised stumbling block, a hurdle that the tares are still tripping over even to this day, as the deceived ones follow and pay a penalty for following the unrighteousness. As shown earlier by way of the domino effect, it is from this false teaching that has caused other false teachings to spring up, the anti-Mashiach, the mark of the beast, etc. Therefore, all these natural, physical, and carnal aspects of the end-time scripture have a higher level or spiritual meaning hidden therein. Isaiah 55, 7 through 10. It's the natural interpretations in most cases that are only traps. It's the spiritual interpretations that bring forth the ultimate message Yahuwah is conveying to mankind. Only those who possess his Ruach HaKodesh, or Holy Spirit, are going to be able to truly ascertain these spiritual truths. John 16, 13. Having said all of this, on a spiritual level, what exactly is the one world order? By applying the method of plurality and singularity, we have the following. One world order, plurality. All nations of the earth rejects God's law or the Mosaic law and establish their own individual separated government systems that do not resolve the world's problems. They are all failing. That's from a plural perspective. From a singular perspective, all nations are now one in nothing but worldwide confusion, division, and strife, all bearing qualities and characteristics of Hasatan or Satan, thereby serving Satan. Hence, Satan has deceived the whole world as the Bible teaches. This worldwide confusion is nothing but Satan's one world order system, for they all are all one in his confusion of mystery Babylon the Great. Let's take this revelation one more step further. This satanic system of his one world order has been in place throughout the history of time since we were expelled from the Garden of Eden. It is not anything new or different and is not something that is to come in the future. It is this dominion that is battling Yahuwah's dominion, and this has been the case throughout Earth Age number 2. See chart E. Therefore, Mystery Babylon the Great is nothing but Satan's one world order of nothing but confusion. It is in this spiritual way that Yahuwah refers to Mystery Babylon the Great, one world order, which is nothing but Satan throughout time deceiving the inhabitants of the earth by way of his lying political systems, false economic systems, false educational systems, and most importantly, his deceptive and damning religious systems. It's this one worldwide system of confusion and lies that Yahuwah throughout the ages has called all his people, regardless of where we are in time or where we are living, to come out of her. Revelations 18:4. Every single human being throughout history has been called to come out of her. This truth is not only applicable to our generation or to something that many think is to come onto the horizon in the future. Therefore, if you are looking for a one world order system to come to establish itself on the earth as a means of fulfilling end time prophecy, then you are terribly snared, all according to plan. It is in this manner that most end time doctrine is established by the Elohim shall Yasharal, or God of Israel, by way of his method of plurality and singularity. The language pertaining to Elohim and one world order are changing to decode when operating, are challenging to decode when operating carnally and not spiritually. This is our test from our Creator. Has the truth been witnessed, or has it not? If you truly have a pure heart to want his truth, then he will more than willingly give, show, prove, and confirm it unto your understanding. However, if there is any hardness of heart whatsoever, then he will only allow you to stay in the dark and confused. It is important to read and understand the scriptures with all precepts and principles given throughout the scriptures. It is imperative to study Revelations chapter 13 and 17 and understand that Yahuwah calls the end from the beginning, Isaiah 46, 8 through 11. The proper spiritual context and understanding will lead you to understand that the world will be restored to the righteousness of the Garden of Eden after purging the evil and its hierarchical, wicked, and corrupt leaders and followers who do not repent to usher in the kingdom on earth as it is in heaven. Pay close attention as it has been, and is happening as we speak. To obtain more clarity regarding what man consistently attempts to achieve for one world order, please review our lesson entitled The One World Order, or Are There Two? This lesson should enlighten your perspective. Actually, I've made that lesson into a different lesson, so it's not a separate lesson. It's actually encapsulated or encompassed in another lesson. Number 5, are you prepared for your final exam? The conclusion to be made here is that all of the prophecies that need to be fulfilled in order for the true Mashiach to return for his second advent have either all been fulfilled or are in the process of continually being fulfilled. If you are of a persuasion that there are still prophetic events that need to be physically fulfilled on a physical or natural level, then you will ultimately miss out on Messiah's second coming and the first resurrection. All are either fulfilled or being continually fulfilled on a spiritual level. Matthew 12, 38 through 41. Until then, the salvation plan is still in full effect, as his true church of spiritual Israel is still locating more lost sheep so that they can take up their rightful place in the God family of the spiritual house of Israel. It will be at the appointed time and season that the last one of Yahuwah's elect will have been found or come out of her, that Yahusha will then redeem and deliver his church, spiritual Israel, the Yahudim. Romans 11, 25 and 26. If you are unaware of the appointed times and seasons, then there is no way one will be able to be ready to meet him as he arrives. The clock is ticking and time is running out. Yahusha said we are to redeem the time before it gets too late. Colossians 4:5, Ephesians 5:13 to 17. Yahusha is fulfilling his end by returning to restore or gather in. Revelations 12:5, harvest, Leviticus 23:22, his people back to himself for his assembly to be with him. Yahuwah has given to this world a love letter, his word, the Holy Bible, to teach and instruct us on that which he determined is the standard of righteousness living, which is accomplished by the Spirit and is to be manifested in the natural realm. On a natural or physical level, again, a spiritual death trap. The book appears to be easy to read and comprehend to some, especially regarding the latter translations that use common day vernacular. But the fact of the matter is that the book is complex, and the revelation of the information hidden therein is very difficult to endure to the carnal mind. John 16:12. The ultimate spiritual truth will therefore be unwisely rejected by most. They that were born spiritually dead and are still in the same condition. Isaiah 41:26 and Psalm 58:3. We are to then renew our minds and thinking in a way that is in line with his truth. Romans 12:2 and Deuteronomy 8:6. It's in this manner that we are all called to be his disciples, thereby being well trained in studying his word throughout our lifetime, being able to jump over the stumbling blocks and traps to continue moving forward to the finish line. Ephesians 6:11 through 18, Hebrews 12:1 and 2, and Psalms 19:5. By being able to rightly divide the word, one will be able to put the individual pieces of the overall puzzle together so that they would end up manifesting an outcome that is completely sound, non-contradictory, and makes total spiritual sense of righteousness in spirit and in truth. 2 Timothy 2:15, Isaiah 28:13. If we have properly done our job by way of understanding the first 65 books of the Old and New Testaments, then it will allow us to be fully prepared to handle the very last book, Revelation. It is this book that is the final chapter of life where Yahuwah reveals all end-time truth unto those who can fully comprehend the content therein, showing that he really has the eyes to see and the ears to hear. Proper preparation entails being able to understand the usage of Hebrew idioms used by Yahuwah throughout the various biblical writings. We are to build upon the knowledge we receive, precept upon precept, here a little and there a little, to develop sound doctrine, 1 Timothy 1:10, 2 Timothy 4:3, Titus 2:1, and Titus 1:9. Without having done this, then it will be impossible for one to be able to have the true understanding of the book of Revelation, unsealed and revealed unto their understanding. Again, unless Yahuwah gives the ears to hear and the eyes to see, based on your actions from times past, Earth Age number 1, again, C chart E, you will remain being lost. We've already established that this life that we're living in Earth Age number 2 is a mere play or replay of the life we've all lived spiritually during Earth Age number 1. As the plan of salvation was instituted by Yahuwah, utilizing the Lamb's Book of Life. See our lesson and content on Yahuwah's Lamb Book of Life. He went forth to fulfill many participants, fallen man, into their roles, righteous and unrighteous positions. It's throughout time that these same roles in the replay of spiritual life are continually being filled, thereby causing the scriptures to continually being fulfilled. It's in obtaining the spiritual understanding regarding how the Elohim of Yasharal is using these role players and their roles that will cause his truth to shine forth. In a spiritual sense, The Holy Bible acts as its own dictionary in the way it utilizes spiritual phrases and can only be interpreted as the Ruach HaKodesh reveals exactly what the spiritual words, phrases, and story is conveying. This is the case that brings forth the unsealing and revealing of the true spiritual context of the scriptures that have been misconstrued, misguided, and inaccurately taught, indoctrinated, and fed to the masses from a natural carnal perspective. Relying solely on Webster's or Britannica or lexicon or even Strong's concordance to do this job, can be another spiritual trap, as they often do not provide spiritual context and makes void the Ruach HaKodesh. The resources are good sources. However, study circumspectly and pray for the Ruach HaKodesh to lead and guide you into all truth. The content of the book of Revelation, like the others, is based on spiritual terminology. The master teacher is now giving us our final exam. He is merely testing our overall knowledge of that which he taught in the earlier books. If a sound understanding of those books went forth, then the book of Revelation can be properly decoded, interpreted, unsealed, and revealed in the proper spiritual context that will provide all truth to be established, confirmed, and then finalized. Keep in mind, as we taught in The Reason Why We're Here, Yahuwah calls the end from the beginning. This is key knowledge to understand spiritual time. Yes, this is a very difficult task, indeed, and has taken thousands of years to fulfill, all according to Yahuwah's plan of salvation. But again, with Elohim, all things are possible. Mark 10:27. We earlier dealt with singular words and how they represent plural entities. We saw that some were easy words while others were more challenging. As we continue to read and understand the spiritual content of the Bible, we should see that Yahuwah frequently utilizes this method of singularity and plurality to hide and establish his truth. The book of Revelations, like the others, are full of them. If we can properly identify the roles and the inhabitants of the earth that are fulfilling the roles, then we can get a better understanding of all end time truth. As the revelation goes forth, you will continue to see that many things are already fulfilled or are continually being fulfilled. Having a mindset to miscomprehend that many events and matters are to come is a huge stumbling block. This is exactly why the masses did not know Yahusha in his first advent until it was too late. Will you do the same during this time of his second advent? Selah. Singular Hebrew idioms used to define plural entities, the anti-Mashiach or anti-Messiah. Plurality, anti means false replacement, counterfeit, or instead of. Mashiach or Messiah's adversary that satisfied this criteria is Satan or Hasatan. Therefore, the Bible reveals Satan as being the anti-Mashiach. However, Satan and his angels angels being higher than humans lower, cohorts fulfilling his dirty work. Paul referred to these wicked individuals as being little anti-Mashiachs. Collectively, Satan and his workers are all fulfilling the role of the anti-Mashiach or anti-Messiah. Thinking that one man is to come that will perform in this capacity is totally erroneous and is the deception of carnal indoctrination. 1 John 2:18-22, 1 John 4:3, and 2 John 1:7. Singularity, Satan, or Hasatan, the singular name of the collective wicked spiritual body of hosts that have been operating here on earth as the anti-Mashiach. While the very entity has misguided, miseducated, and indoctrinated the masses to believe that the evil spirit will soon come to dwell here on earth in the body of one man who is going to rise on the scene of history and establish his one new world order, the teaching is erroneous and fallacy. Remember, Satan is cunning and subtle. His false teachings keep the minds of his deceived believers to be on the lookout for something else that doesn't exist. Meanwhile, he is already here in their face, lives, hearts, and spirit. 1 John 2, 18 to 22, 1 John 4, 3, and 2 John 1, 7. Another term, the Ruach HaKodesh, or the Holy Spirit. From a plurality perspective, the purpose of the Ruach HaKodesh is to bring truth and understanding unto Elohim's elect. Those of the elect are Yahuwah's allies, given the position of performing in this capacity as the angel Gabriel. Gabriel, the collective body, is the host of righteous angels that fulfill the mission as stated and prophesied in the scriptures. Collectively, as these angels comprise of being the Ruach HaKodesh, collectively, all of these angels comprise of being the Ruach HaKodesh, or Holy Spirit. These angels, spirits, are what causes Elohim, or God's elect, to have spiritual eyes to see and spiritual ears to hear, while spreading the word in places not made by the hands of man. Acts 7:48 and Acts 17:24 to the rest of his body. From a singular perspective or singularity, the collective body of the Ruach HaKodesh, which is comprised of many angels of righteousness, culminates to the one spirit that is holy and righteous, being the Ruach HaKodesh, Holy Spirit. When using the term Ruach HaKodesh, it is to be understood via the spiritual context of the scriptures that the Ruach HaKodesh is only one spirit of righteousness that leads and guides to the truth, thereby being the spirit of truth. John 15:26, John 16:13, John 14:17, and 1 John 4:6. The unholy spirit, from a plurality perspective, Satan is now Elohim, or God's primary enemy, and being an angel, he is an unclean and unholy spirit. Again, he has all his angelic cohorts doing his bidding at his right hand, and there are also unholy spirits. Collectively, they all comprise of the unholy spirit. This unholy spirit is comprised of those who have taken the broad and wide gate that leads to destruction, believing they are on the path to righteousness, Matthew 7:13 and 14. The scripture is clear that many there be which go in thereat. Referring to the broad and wide gate is the unholy spirit. We can reasonably conclude that the unholy spirit exists in the masses, many. So, from a singularity perspective, many have rightly identified the unholy spirit as being Satan, yet they don't make proper application to who Satan is, and recognizing that his demonic spirits are all part of his one group. It is imperative to identify and fully obtain the spiritual knowledge regarding this matter. We highly recommend that you study and fully comprehend our lesson entitled "The Reason Why We're Here, the Truth Regarding Outside of the Garden of Eden, the Beast, and the False Prophet 666. The church, ecclesia, or the called out ones. Elohim, or God, has only one church, a spiritual institution that cannot be seen with physical or carnal eyes of men, but can only be spiritually discerned. One must understand that Yahuwah's one church consists of all lost sheep that were innocently deceived by having been a part of any one of the world's false religious systems in their lifetime. Eventually, they come out of her to take up residency with him in the wilderness of their respective nations. All these people, whoever they are, comprise of Yahuwah's one church, the house of Israel, which is spiritual Israel, the sons of Elohim. This one body, church, assembly, or congregation, however, is comprised of now two parts: the most holy place and the holy place, which makes up the inner court and then the outer court. Once a lost sheep realizes that the midst of having been deceived by having adhered to any of the many false world religions, judgment, he will come out of her, to then take up place in the inner court of Elohim's one invisible spiritual church, assembly, or congregation. Based on predestination, he will have been appointed to play all these roles to become truly born again, proving that he was also one of the innocently deceived, or a transgressor who fully represents thereby having been one of Yahuwah's elect from the foundations of the world. Singularity. Each individual religious system lays claim to possessing Elohim's truth. They all argue, fuss, and fight with one another as they all lay claim to sitting in the seat of Moses as Elohim's lawgiver, when not one of them have been given Yahuwah's power and authority to do so. Not the Christians, Muslims, Jews of national Israel, or any other worldwide organization, religious institution, or traditions of men. They all have nothing but deceptive and false sense of power that only will lead to spiritual death and destruction. They are all propagating many untruths, falsities, wickedness, biases, hate, and lies, and are terribly confused, thereby comprising Satan's one worldwide church of mystery, Babylon the Great, massed worldwide confusion. Another term, spiritual Israel. Spiritual Yasharal, or spiritual Israel, is synonymous for Elohim's true church of converted Jews and proselytized Gentiles. These are all the lost sheep of the house of Israel that have been located and have come home to their one true spiritual family, all now being sons of Elohim, all now being in one righteousness of our one true creator, Yahuwah. The Holy Temple. From a plurality perspective, the Holy Temple is a spiritual entity that is synonymous for God's one true church, or Elohim's one true church. This invisible spiritual institution that the gates of hell cannot prevail against, as Satan has manufactured physical temples and churches, consists of many individuals where each one is a separate building block or member of the body of Yahusha, the only begotten Son. HaMashiach Yahusha goes forth building his holy temple one by one, as each one of the lost sheep are found, thereby coming out of her. This process of building one by one continues throughout the duration of time during the plan of salvation until the last one of Yahuwah's elect comes out of her until the first resurrection, and is then perfectly put in place in the Mashiach Yahusha's temple. Refer to the church above for details. From a singularity perspective, the end-time misnomer, deception, and misguided traditional view of man here is that of the building of a physical temple, one in the geographically located city of Jerusalem in the Middle East. The anti-Mashiach or anti-Messiah explained above is to enter a 7-year covenant with the Jews, allowing them to build this temple, and halfway into the agreement, he will turn on He will turn on the Jews, enter the temple, claim to be God, and expect all to bow down to him. See our lesson and study entitled Chart M, the Blueprint of Mashiach's Timeline, the Untold Story, to obtain understanding on when and how this occurs and unfolds. Other noteworthy words and phrases to be mindful of regarding plurality and singularity or uniplural nouns are the man-child, man, woman, the beast, the false prophet, the son of Elohim. Number 6, plurality and singularity, God's ability or Elohim's ability to be omnipresent. It should be clear that the true Mashiach really means business. He goes forth throughout the earth operating in such a way that is simply unbelievable to the carnal mind, just as it should be. He is merely exposing that which is in the heart of every single inhabitant on the face of the earth. If one's heart is wicked, then he will simply choose to remain being in the dark about these spiritual matters. These tares will only continue to reject him and his people as they find contentment and comfort in their man-made religious systems that are full of nothing but leaven. However, if his heart is pure, then he will fulfill his role of being innocently deceived, to then move forward to come out of her to now fulfill the role of the wheat, even if he must do so alone. He will have been wise to not let the stumbling block of plurality and singularity prevent him from finding the true Mashiach, the only one who can save him from being dead in his sins. You will fully understand the Creator's ability to be omnipresent. So, from all of that, one of the things, and this is the end of our lesson, but to check your understanding, some of the things that you need to be aware of is to understand what is the Holy Shema, define the word Elohim or Elohim. How can something be one while at the same time being more than one? What does the phrase plurality and singularity mean? What is the traditional view of the one world order? What is the truth regarding the one world order? Also, what is a stumbling block, a trap, a snare? Provide 3 simple examples as to how Elohim uses plurality and singularity. And that concludes our lesson for today, plurality in singularity.